Hi, welcome to the unexciting world of game deving. This is Burp Studios, and today we're going to learn how to implement a smooth rotating object, or an object that smoothly rotates towards its target. So as you can see here, little guy is rotating towards our target, which in this case is the mouse cursor. And that's what we're going to be learning today. Very simple, not hard. So first thing we do is just create our little sprite, little circle with a horizontal line from the origin of from the center of the circle outward, so you can see it rotate, and also center it. Make sure you don't forget to center it. Very important. All right, object. Here it is. Create event. All we're going to do here is declare one variable, and that is turn speed. In other words, how quickly your object rotates towards its target. And we're just going to say it to, for now. That's it. That's all you do in the create event. Now step event. Very simple. Anyone can do this. Anyone can code. Alright. So we're going to start by declaring three variables. Target direction, our facing direction, and our angle difference. That's going to be our first three variables. Alright, so facing direction is just the direction in which we're facing. I'm going to do floor direction, so it looks like this. And I always like to floor my direction, because otherwise you start getting decimals. For example, 45.1, 45.2, 45.3, and that can cause problems later on. So when you floor, you get whole numbers. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that solves a lot of issues in the future. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Let's pretend this is a little rotating object, right? And this is where it's facing. This is going to be called the facing direction. So we'll just go face direction, and that's what that represents. And then it's a little horizontal thing. And then we're going to have our target direction, right? Or where we want to turn towards, so we'll call that target direction. And this is where we want to go. We want to rotate smoothly towards that target direction. And then we have what's called the angle difference. So what that is the difference between here and here. This is the angle difference. And we calculate that by saying our facing direction minus our target direction, and that will give us our angle difference. Alright, so let's go back to here, and now we say our target direction is going to equal, and we're going to use a built-in GameMaker function called point direction. It says our target's direction is going to be from our position to our target's position, which in this case is just the mouse cursor. That's our target. That's where we want to go. Alright. And then the angle difference. So we're going to declare one more variable, and it's going to be called facing minus target. And that's going to be facing direction minus our target direction, just like I showed you in the little visual. And then we're going to say our angle difference will equal the facing minus target direction. Okay, I'm going to skip some code here. That's going to go here, but I just want to show you one thing really quick. is one of the common problems when you try to rotate smoothly towards a target direction. This tends to happen. Here, hold on. Let me just explain really quick. All right. So, all right. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say this is our little object. This is where it's facing, and then this is our target, and this is where we want to face. Okay. So what we're gonna say here is that if our target direction is greater than our current facing direction, we're going to rotate counterclockwise. So for argument's sake, let's just say that our facing direction here is 45 degrees. And so all these numbers are in degrees, angles, 45 degree angle. And let's just say that our target's direction is 135 degrees, all right? So what we're doing here is we're saying if our target's direction is greater than our direction, rotate counterclockwise. However, if our target's direction happens to be here, which is less than our current facing direction, then we want to rotate clockwise, and that's what we're going to do right now. That's exactly what we're going to do. So this is how we do that. If the angle difference is greater than 1, that is to say if our angle difference is a positive number, then we're going to subtract from our current facing direction by this speed. So what that means is if our angle difference is greater than 1, if it's a positive number, and remember we said angle difference diff equals our facing direction minus target direction. And so since our facing direction here, we are saying it's 45, and then let's just say that our target's direction here is 25. So that's going to give us a positive number. That's going to be 45 minus 25, and that's going to be a positive 20. Positive. So if the number comes back greater than 1, remember we said if it's greater than 1, if it's a positive number, we're going to subtract from our facing direction, our current direction. So this is what happens when you subtract. So since we want to rotate clockwise, we have to subtract from our 45 so that we can match the 25. So what we're saying here is if our target direction, if our angle difference is greater than 1, if it's a positive number, subtract from our current direction. Otherwise, else if our angle difference is less than 1, in other words, if it's a negative number, then we are going to just do the opposite and add to our current direction by turn speed. Right? Now let's drop this bad boy into a room. 6 here, object 1, and there it is. Also, don't forget to assign your sprite. Alright, so let's check that out. And of course, it doesn't work. Hold on, I know what I did wrong. Okay, so what we forgot to do is just really quickly, it was rotating, but we forgot to do this one of those steps just so you can see it. Just do image angle equals direction, or facing direction. That's all you gotta do. Okay, now spin it again. We should see it work now. So there it is. See? If I go this way, it rotates that way. If I go this way, it rotates that way. However, oh, what happened there? What happened? Just look at, oh, what? So for some reason, when I cross this invisible threshold right here, it just rotates completely the other way around. And same thing if I go. Oh, okay, it doesn't seem to. Sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. See? I go like this, it just wants to go that way. So why is it doing that? Let's go back over here. So right here, this little chunk of code that I wanted to write in, we're going to add a condition. We're going to make a statement that's going to tell our code, if that happens, ignore this, don't do this, instead do what we're about to tell you. And this is what we're going to do. Let me show you really quickly. So back to the diagram. This is what we are going to do. So we're going to say, here's our little object. Now, this next part might seem confusing, but it's really not. It's not confusing at all. Just pay attention here. Okay, so this is our facing direction. And then let's say our target's here, right? And then he's moving, and our little object here is rotating this way, but all of a sudden when you cross this invisible threshold here, which represents 0 degrees or 360 degrees. So what happens is when our little target goes past this line and lands over here, all of a sudden his facing direction is no longer smaller than ours, because now it's, let's say, I don't know, 356. So all of a sudden his direction is just way bigger than ours. So since we said if our target's direction is greater than our direction, rotate counterclockwise. And that's exactly what happens. The moment our target crosses this invisible threshold, all of a sudden it rotates this way. So we need to fix that. And the way we fix that is by doing this. Right. So we're going to say, this is our little object again, facing direction, a little threshold here, and then let's say our target is here. This is a little target. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to say this. If the angle difference, right, from here to here, if that angle difference is greater than 180 degrees, so if our angle difference is greater than 180, and 180 degrees is just wherever you're facing, wherever you're currently facing, 180 is the exact opposite direction, this way, like this. So that's 180. So if our angle difference is greater than 180, so if it's greater than this, follow this new rule. This new rule will now apply. Ignore the old rule if the angle difference is greater than 180, and instead do this. And this is what we're going to tell it to do. Let's get that wrong. Alright. We're going to say, here's the facing target. You guys get the idea, right? Okay. So we're going to say, instead, take the angle difference from here to the center line and add it to this angle from here to here. So add these two angles together. And that's what we're going to do. Watch. Oh. Alright. So we're going to say if the absolute value of our facing minus target is greater than 180, right? Do this. This new rule now applies. If facing direction is greater than our target's direction, facing direction is greater than our target's direction, so facing greater than target, it's this right here. Facing greater than target. So if we were facing this way, and this is at a visible threshold, and our target crosses here, right? So our target goes like this, and then it crosses that line. If our facing direction is greater, which it is now, than our target, do this. The new angle difference, so over here we're telling you to ignore the old rule and say that the new angle difference will be -1 times 360 degrees. 360 degrees because this line represents either 0 or 360, right? So all the way around like this would be 360 degrees. So that's where we get the 360 from. 360 minus our facing direction. So that number, so this number, so 360 take away our facing direction, which is right here. So let's just say, I don't know, that's 275 or something. So by doing this, we calculate this difference here. That's how we get this number, this angle right here, by subtracting 360 from 275. So here we are, 360 minus facing direction, so that little segment right there, plus our target direction. Plus our target's direction. So we're gonna add this little chunk here, this little direction, to our target's direction, which would be from this 0 to our current target's direction. So like this. So we're adding these two chunks, this part and this part. And that's what we're saying. Add them together and you get this whole angle here from here to here. Alright. Then we're going to say if the opposite happens, where if the opposite thing happens where we're facing this way and our target, we're facing that way, and then our target suddenly crosses down this way, then that's what we're going to say. If the opposite happens, do the same thing but in reverse. So we do else the angle difference will equal 360 minus target's direction plus facing direction. And that ought to fix it. So, okay, one thing I forgot to mention. Here, -1 times 360 minus facing plus target direction. Let's go back to our diagram. Here, back to this. So we're saying 360 minus this, and it's going to give you a positive number. It's going to give you a, let's see, do the math. Jesus, terrible here. 5, 15, 3, 5, 8, 2, and then that's it, 85. So it's going to give you a positive 85. Now, remember our rule said if we get a positive number, let's go down here. If our angle difference is positive, we want to subtract from our turn speed, right? But if we were to do that, he would just rotate back this way because we're subtracting from our angle. And we don't want that. So what we do is we multiply our 85 times a -1. And what that does is it completely flips this over, so now we're back over here because it's less. Angle, if it's less than 1, if it's a negative number, then we add to our direction. And that's what's happening with this -1. That's why we're multiplying it. Otherwise, if we get a positive number, we're going to rotate this way. If we get a negative number, we're going to rotate this way. So that's why we turn our 85 into a negative number so that we continue turning this way. Once we cross this threshold here, once you cross this threshold, this little condition here no longer applies. We no longer follow this rule. We go back to the old rule where we just take our facing direction minus our target direction, and then we rotate whether it's a positive or negative number. And the old rule takes over once we cross this threshold here. But anyways, I just wanted to explain where that -1 came from, why I had to be there. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that should fix it. So let's see if it works. So here we are. It's rotating. Let's see what happens when I cross that threshold. Oh, check that out. It freaking works. See that? It's no longer rotating the other way. And that's how we fix that. There's some different ways to do this that I've seen, and some of them are pretty elegant. There's one that uses a sine, but the only problem with that one is that when you're completely behind it, it tends to slow down, or it stops rotating when you're 180 degrees behind your object. Then also for some reason, well, I guess because you're using sine, if you're like at the 90-degree angle, it rotates really fast, but if you come further back this way, it rotates really slow. So this is how I implemented this rotation into my game, The Art of the Kill. And so hopefully someone somewhere found that useful. I've also written out the whole code again, and I put it in the comments below, so make sure you thumbs that up so that other people can see it. And remember that you too can also help guide what tutorials I create next. All you have to do is just go check out my game, The Art of the Kill, and if there's anything in that game that you see that you want to know how to do yourself, just go ahead and contact me, let me know what it is, and I'll create a tutorial showing you how to do exactly that, line by line, explaining how everything worked. And that's about it. So, this is the unexciting part of the video where I ask you to shamelessly subscribe, like, follow, add, all that crap. It really makes a difference. So as always, be kind and stay safe.